Fuck around and find out.
A thug suddenly launched a sneak attack on George from behind. Another thug took advantage of the chaos and kicked George's gun away. The three of them quickly tangled together in a fierce fight, but the attackers had the numbers. George was soon beaten heavily to the ground. One thug picked up the gun that fell on the floor and repeatedly pulled the trigger at George lying there. After the attackers retreated, George miraculously stood back up. It turned out the gun was loaded with rubber bullets, not real rounds. Soon George escaped to the rooftop with Annie. Using a rope prepared in advance, they safely descended to the ground. George's successful escape completely disrupted the attackers' plan. This made their boss extremely furious, and he decided on the spot to eliminate everyone who failed. After George returned to the hospital, he only briefly treated his wounds, then immediately rushed to Annie's hospital room. But the nurse told him Annie had quietly left half an hour earlier. After pressing for details, George learned that Annie had already gone to the record company. George did not hesitate and immediately chased after her. At the same time, he could not understand why Annie chose to appear at this moment. To figure out the truth, George's companion called the secretary and repeatedly warned her not to let Annie enter the office. Just as the call ended, Annie had already appeared at the front desk. George immediately told the secretary to hand the phone to Annie. But at that moment, the female thug arrived with her men. Annie used the excuse of going to the restroom and finally found a chance to escape through the stairwell. While the thugs were still waiting in the office for her to appear, only after some time did they realize Annie had already escaped. Meanwhile, George also arrived at the company underground parking garage. The thugs rushed out and confronted George head-on. Relying on his physical advantage, George quickly took several of them down, and the boss of the thugs was about to leave by elevator. But he did not expect George had already set an ambush inside the thugs, and their boss were forced to flee all the way to the rooftop, completely unaware that the king of combat George had been waiting there all along.